The Cheating Death Podcast is a satirical podcast containing objective information about anything and everything under the sun. Transparent, direct, blunt, and brutal. We provide an opportunity for you to open your eyes. We are not political, nor are we religious. We are a bit analytical and no longer litigious. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity for you to understand not only is this a world in which that you can open with your eyes, but you are now aware you are listening to the Cheating Death Podcast. On today's special episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we pay tribute to my mother, who passed away in January of 2026, and it has taken quite a bit of time to be able to do this episode without completely losing the audience on this. So, what we are going to do is we are going to spend the episode going over some of her greatest achievements, what made her great, and ultimately how she made the world a better place. In her spirit, we're also going to tell a World War II joke, which is going to be the joke of the episode. The top 5 list is going to be a top 5 list of her favorite Slurpee flavors. And, of course, dear listeners, we are going to do the business spotlight, which is going to shine light on a couple of new areas in which some of you may have an opportunity to have some fun with. Now, given the nature and dynamics of this world that we find ourselves in, dear listeners, there is absolutely nothing that can stop you from achieving your potential. However, by now, you know that on this fun program, we have a whole lot lined up for you, so you know what to do. Grab your iced coffee, kick your feet up, and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. My mother was a type of soul in whom always told people that they were able to believe in themselves. Never, ever backed down from her opinion and her feeling and her stance on a litany of topics and subjects and figures. She would be very pleased to understand and to know that many people out there are still trying their best. Many people out there are still doing everything that they can in order to increase their position in life and in order to try to help and serve those around them. This existence that we share is not an easy feat. It is not a very simple track for any of us to follow. There are a lot of weaving woes and ranging roads that we have to travel that none of us are really fully prepared for until we get to that point. Mother was the kind of person that did everything that she possibly could to help everyone around her until that was no longer a possibility. So, given how the world has shown itself to be, you ask yourself exactly what it is that you can do and to increase your standing. How can you configure your life? How are you able to move forward and identify a particular solution for your dilemma? It's easy, but there's always going to be a curve. There's always going to be a caveat, ladies and gentlemen. There is always going to be an area of opportunity or an obstacle that is going to slow you down or make an attempt to put you in a different position. It is imperative that you fight through this. It is imperative that you go forth. It is imperative that you believe in yourself and that you take an opportunity to realize just how strong both your vessel and your soul are. The news report on this particular section of the program is identifying late-breaking news, the 11 o'clock hour. You, dear listener, are capable of finding everything it is that you need to do. More on this at 11:30. Remember, you must do absolutely everything you can. Believe in yourself and never give up, because at the end of the day, the only person that you're letting down by surrendering is you. This has been your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this has been your Annihilation Announcement. Willkommen, meine Freunde. Guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht. Ist eine Reisende und eine Ausländer und eine Allesfresser, deine vernichte Schauspieler und Eisterfrestasten. Or, as Mother would say, Bonjour, bienvenue, je m'appelle Cleric of Chaos. Understand, dear listeners, today is a very special episode. And what we are going to do is we are going to pay tribute to one of the most amazing human beings to have ever graced this planet. Born in Quebec in the late 50s, my mother, well, we'll just call DRL, specifically for the purposes of not providing anyone with that whole security question, what is your mother's maiden name? But my mother, we'll just call her DL. She was a pioneer, a legend, a leviathan. Born in the late 50s in Quebec, the south of Quebec more specifically, her family emigrated here in 1641. The very first written example of our family on my mother's side being in Canada and or North America is Sir Jean de Lalonde, an individual in whom was an explorer, a conqueror of sorts, and one of the legionnaires in whom was responsible for assembling and settling what was then known as Upper Canada. By and large, my mother's family has been in this country continuously for well over 384 years. There is a lot when it comes down to the differences and changes that my mother's family have seen, witnessed, been a part of over the course of many, many years. But the most beautiful element and aspect of that is having the knowledge that because of the person my mother was, and who her brother was, and who her father was, they were responsible for shaping some of the greatest oil foundations, reserves, companies, corporations in Western Canada that are still prevalent and still going today. Her brother was a vice president of international affairs for Shell Corporation, all the way from the 60s, all the way to the 90s when he retired. This was a man in whom believed in his people, believed in his country. My mother had a very unique life, spending time in Quebec all the way up until the early 1970s, at which point she was happy and elated to move to Ontario to undergo university studies in North Bay to become a director of education, an individual in whom was going to do her very best in order to shape the minds, the hearts, the souls of teachers and teaching professionals for years and decades to come. Tragedy struck and her father passed away midway through her third year. As such, she was not in an emotional position to complete her studies, and so she chose to go down a different path. She took her university and her bright mind, her credentials, her experience, her communication, her empathy, her love for humanity, and she took a bet on herself and she moved to Toronto in 1974. Within the first 6 months of her being in Toronto, ladies and gentlemen, She secured work at College Park and Young and College, Young and Charles. She even worked on Bay Street in the financial district for a little while, realizing her true potential and seeing just how beautiful she was, how much she meant to her colleagues, how much she meant to her friends, how much she meant to her family. It was at that time, approximately 12 years later, that she would meet the man who would eventually become my father. This episode is not going to take the piss out of my father. That may be left for another episode, although that is still up in the air. The point that remains for the purposes of this episode is that my mother met a man who sold her a bill of goods, promised her the world, moved her to a rural area of Niagara, Ontario, and then after that, moved to a slightly less rural part of Niagara, Ontario, all the while spending years and years and years with him telling her that he will support the family, he will pay for the family, he will do this, he will do that. He was an English man, a man of great prestige and great renown, although, admittedly, the man was a deceiver. It took my mother a further 10 years to discover, and her mother, with a bottle of cognac in her hand, to discover the deceit and treachery that my father had bestowed upon her. A man in whom had claimed that his grandfather and his great-grandfather were British military men, were in actuality German military men. That's right, listeners. It took approximately 25 years overall, collectively speaking, in the grand nature and the scheme of things, for my father's deceitful plan to fall to pieces. But my grandmother on my mother's side, from when I was a child, taught me that there is nothing wrong with being German, that there is nothing wrong with being born in the Soviet Union. Because as most of you are aware and who know me in real life, I, the man behind the Cleric of Chaos, am one of the last remaining members of the born Soviet Union in the late 80s. Dresden, in Eastern Germany, one of the most beautiful areas of the world. Shame was all my father could think of. It was my mother and it was my grandmother who took the time and did the investigatory digging to figure out exactly who he was, where he hailed from, why he was as belligerent and why he was as abusive as he was, why he consumed so much alcohol and vehemently and ardently refused to listen to reason, why he was a brute, and why he chose to be deceitful and manipulative with his life. Turns out that some people are just ashamed to admit that their family may or may not have had to suffer at the hands of the SS, that their family had to leave and flee to a different area of rural Germany in order to survive. So my father made up this whole grand story about how he is British and part of the royal aristocracy to a degree. And it was at which point only a DNA test was able to prove that he was 100% incorrect. And from the banes of childhood, having one DNA test completed at 11 years old and a further one at 27, further cementing and confirming and identifying that not only were mother and grandmother proud of the fact that we, their grandchildren, had German heritage, but that they were the ones that taught it to us. My mother took an opportunity to learn a completely different sector of life, a completely different language, a completely different culture, all because father was too ashamed to tell us who we actually were. Over the years, mother was an individual in whom was a pioneer in working from home. She had her own medical transcription business to where she communicated, consulted, and worked with dozens of hospitals all around the world, providing transcription services, dictation reports, and consulting on any type of individual in whom would need some assistance in getting into medical transcription. Ever since 1993, all the way up into her death in 2026, she stayed strong. She kept the house going, even when father was not able to work. though admittedly there was a 12-year period in which he did have a regular, steady, perpetual position and was fairly well paying. He was inevitably phased out because the corporation deemed him no longer usable. So, since then, he worked for Tim Hortons and relied on my mother to pay the remainder of the bills. Mother did everything that she possibly could. She tolerated as much as she possibly could. She was a fan of Danielle Steele novels, true crime. She was a fan of driving down the street and laughing at people who were yelling at each other. She was a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays and a fan of almost everything involving this great country. She is one of the reasons why whenever I look around and I experience my life, my upbringing, my culture, my experiences and happiness and differences in our great country, that I do not fall to pieces. She is one of the reasons that I am as part of Toronto as I am. She is one of the reasons that I am a Torontonian despite being born in Germany, is because of the fact that she bestowed her love upon this land to me. She took a mortgage out on a home in the year 2000. She provided an opportunity for my family to breathe and to live a normal life. It was not her fault that father abandoned us at age 11 and essentially left the children to their own devices, and regardless of her complaints and of her, for lack of better terms, screams to let us remain living there, he no longer had interest. And due to the kind of individual he is and was, there was no position for her to reasonably decline. So she sat and she dealt with it for years and years and years. And within the past 6-7 years, when he has not been able to exert his authority upon her, only then were we able to go back to that home. And only then were we able to communicate and confer with our families. All of us, all 6 kids, all 12 grandchildren, being advised that because of one man they were not able to do one particular thing, despite the requirements and the love that my mother had provided to each and every single one of us, and to him, a man who did not cook, a man who did not clean, a man who did not bathe properly, a man in whom was literally the very epitome of Al Bundy himself without any of the charisma. Over the course of the years after the purchase of the home, Mother's life was very simple and rudimentary. And this was not her choice. She was pressured into it. Father made her life very isolationist. Before she met my father, she had a large social group of friends, was a social butterfly, and did everything that she could in order to network and make connections. After she met my father, that was completely decimated and destroyed. Over the course of the years, she aged, and we would talk over the phone, and she would tell me how amazing that the new Slurpee flavors are, how great this true crime documentary would be. And each and every single time, hearing her smile and hearing her laugh and just hearing her infectious energy, it was enough to make me understand that just about anything that I could go through is possible to achieve. Within her final years, it was very obvious that her health was failing, and yet no one around her was able or willing to do anything to assist her outside of being able to drive her to and from the hospital for chemo appointments and registration therapy. There were a lot of things that could have been changed and could have been done as it pertained to her final years. How she approached it and how she handled it until the very end is nothing short of amazing, is nothing short of inspirational. How she decided to move forward, even in a hospital bed, is completely astounding and inspiring. She was hospitalized on the 24th of January 2024, and she was given a very basic, rudimentary look over, put in inpatient care, and it wasn't until September 2025 that they had confirmed that she had both lung and esophageal cancer that had spread. She was a very healthy woman. She didn't smoke, she didn't drink, she didn't do drugs. But she sat in a room beside my father for over 40 years while he smoked and smoked and smoked and smoked and smoked and smoked. And the doctor told us that it is a significant possibility that he was the one who caused her cancer to kill her. And at the end of the day, dear listeners, there is nothing that prepares you to hear that type of information. There is absolutely nothing that prepares you for the reality that the most beautiful soul that you have ever encountered and that has ever believed in you in your entire life is gone because of the negligent acts of an individual in whom couldn't be bothered to wipe his own ass. There are no replacements for DRL. There are no human beings who could match the shoes that she wore. There are no human beings in whom are able to truly resonate with humanity how she was able to do. Because of this woman, you are hearing this program. Because of this woman, you have paid tribute and you have ultimately said thank you to me for something at some point. If you know me IRL, you know what I'm talking about. But it is all due to the hard work and the commitment and the energy and the effort that she as a human being put in to helping me from a distance when she could, no matter what, to believe in myself that I am capable of doing whatever it is that I set my mind to. It is because of her that I have been in movies. It is because of her that I have music released internationally and have for over a dozen years. It is because of her that I have been on stages. It is because of her that my future is inspiring, motivating, and dedicating my time, my life, and my energy to doing whatever I can to make this world a better place. My mother passed away on the 26th of January, 2020, or 26. Greenwich Mean Time. If we're talking about Eastern Standard Time, she passed away on the 25th, but I received the text message on Friday evening at approximately 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or Eastern Standard Time, from Father, the very first text message any one of us had received from him in over 7 years. And it wasn't specific. It was general and vague. 7 hours later, we received the call that she's gone. And all we could think, all we could wonder, is why weren't we advised to come? And the answer was provided in a written letter. Mom wanted no funeral. She wanted no memorial. She wanted no service. She didn't want anyone to make a big deal about her. Even in death, she didn't want to be a fuss. One of the things that I will always look towards the sky and I will always wish that could change is I did not get to say goodbye. I did not get to look her in the eyes as she faded away, and I did not get to tell her how grateful I am and how thankful I am that she made me into the person that I have become. I only wish to each of you that if and or when that time comes for your family, that you are able to say goodbye. My mother wanted no funeral. She wanted no memorial services, nothing like that. But it wasn't until afterwards that we had configured that. It's one of my mother's sick jokes when she was a kid, or when I was a kid, because she knew how much I loved her and how much I cared for her and how much I was already hyper aware of death. She would say, "You're going to put roses on my grave when I die, won't you, son?" Never failed to break me into tears. But as I stand here looking out the window and looking at the sun, I am disappointed in you, Mom. Where is your grave? Where can I put the roses? You did not want a grave, a mausoleum, or a permanent resting spot. Your remains are with my sister, and she cares for them deeply. And I just want you to know that you did everything you could for us. And even in death, you tried to make it easy. You tried to make it smooth. And no words of any language, of any lexicon, of any dialect will ever take away what you have done for the world, for the people that you loved, for the people you inspired, and for absolutely every single human being in whom has hopes to escape an abusive situation or domestic violence relationship. You did your best. And that is all anyone ever asked of you. I am sorry that I did not get to say goodbye. Though I know that when I return to the fourth dimension, and when you were there at my hospital bedside when I woke up from the second near-death experience, you remember what I told you? And you remember what you told me? I said, I've seen the other side, Mom. And you said, I know. The world is an evil place, and we will be beyond this together one day, united in the way that we should be, with all the energy that surrounded us before, and will do so again. And in 2011, I had no idea what that meant. At all. But now, to a degree, I do. So, Mom, I want you to know that without question, each and every single accomplishment, achievement, every person that I am able to inspire, every lesson learned, every opportunity, every way to make a community better or to help a culture assimilate a little bit better so people are a little bit less harsh on them, it's all because of you. I mean, you would tell me it's all because of me and we would get into a back and forth tennis match, but it is what it is. You're not here to argue with me anymore. To all the listeners who still have your parents and still have people in your life in whom you value and whom you love, give them a call. Tell them you love them. Rest in peace, Mom. Thank you for being who you were. At the top of today's episode, we promised you a tribute top 5 list. As mentioned, my mother was a absolutely massive fan of the Slurpee brand from 7-Eleven. Even had a giant 6-liter mug that she would drink out of every day. And these 5 flavors, dear listeners, are in tribute to her. Coming in at number 5, we have the Blood Orange Slurpee. Coming in at number 4, we have the Frog Water Slurpee. Coming in at number 3, we have the Orange Mango Slurpee. Coming in at number 2, we have the Crush Lime Slurpee, which was by and large one of her favorites, with the exception of number 1, the Coca-Cola Slurpee. So, dear listeners, if you are looking to grab yourself a nice, refreshing, sugary beverage on this fine day, stop by your local 7-Eleven and grab yourself a delicious beverage. I love you, Mom. Today's joke has been brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. In spirit of my mother, she would be very happy for this joke, so please bear with me. Back in World War II, there were a legion of individuals in whom were fortuitous, strong, valiant, and completely capable of overcoming the slings and the arrows of the mired beasts of war. We are, of course, talking about the Allied powers, ladies and gentlemen, but there seems to be a little bit missing. It appears as if France chose to stay behind. On today's episode of the Business Spotlight, once again brought to you by CRDVC. Are you looking for a cost-effective consultant to assist you with event planning, hosting a corporate event? Are you looking to increase your employee retention or perhaps get more return on your investment? By all means, reach out to us at clericvonchaos@gmail.com and mention the Cheating Death Podcast and get 20 to 25% off your first purchase. Dear listeners, our first member of the Business Spotlight today comes to you straight from California. Yes, we are talking about Douglas Mallow, the epic, the legendary man, the professional wrestler, the power lifter, the Leviathan of legend, the lovely security enforcer for scaling up catches. Yes, we want you to take a moment of your time and head on over to his YouTube channel at just_the_epic_, as well as just_the_epic_ on Instagram. Give him a like, share, and follow. Head on over to Scaling Up Catches at the YouTube channel at youtube.com/@scalingupcatches to find yourself amazing content where Douglas, Eric, and their team protect children and put away the perpetrators that perpetuate these particular types of pitiful crimes. Head on over there today and give them a subscribe and let them know the Cheating Death Podcast sent you. If you are looking for an opportunity to laugh your ass off, ladies and gentlemen, and you are in the Toronto area, you are going to want to visit 814 Bloor Street West, and that is the Backrooms Comedy Club. Dear listeners, Brandon Sobel and crew are some of the most amazing comedians that you will ever set eyes upon. All we ask that you do is head on over to Backrooms Comedy Club at Instagram. Head on over and follow, like, share, and subscribe to their posts, and inquire about their absolutely phenomenal comic preparation program, to where they have professional comedians in whom will coach, guide you, assist you, and help you curate things in a way that you may not have seen before. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to Backrooms Comedy Club at Instagram and get started today. And of course, on that same comedy tip, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go 30 units down the street to 844 Bloor Street West, and we are going to tell you all about Key's Comedy Club, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Key Epic, one of the best people in the entire nation when it comes to being able to provide an illuminating environment for both comedians and audience members alike. Head on over to keyscomedyclub.com, get yourself a ticket for as low as $9 for any one of their events, and grab yourself a subscribe over at their Instagram. Head on over to Keys Comedy Club, tell Key we said what's up and that the Cheating Death Podcast sent you. Are you looking for a delicious food item? Are you hungry in the mid-afternoon, and are you tired of walking up and down Yonge Street? Well, dear listeners, we have a solution for you. Head on over to 10 College Street, which is, of course, our friends at the W Burger Bar. Anytime between 11 a.m. and 2 a.m. Monday through Sunday, their $9.99 lunch special with delicious burger and fries and 225 pints of beer. You will not be disappointed at the lovely service, food, and opportunity of options provided to you. Give yourself an opportunity to stop by their happy hour. And if you want to go for dinner, they have a special where you can get a couple of delicious, absolutely outstanding smash burgers with some fries and cupcakes for dessert. So by all means, head on over to W Burger Bar and let them know the Cheating Death Podcast sent you, and you may very well receive a bit of applause. Facetiously speaking, of course, but this has been the Business Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, when it comes to your business, it is no one's business but your business how you run your business. Over the years, there have been many examples of what a good parent is and what a good family unit looks like, all the way from Victorian times into current modern-day eras to where nuclear families have become blended families and other sorts of situations to where we are trying our very best to be as human as we can. Given the nature and the dynamics of these scenarios, it is imperative that we identify and focus upon what is controllable. My mother was a soul in whom did everything that she could to take care of every single person around her. She sacrificed her career. She sacrificed millions of dollars, renown, prestige, being one of the leading women and leading trailblazers in her field. All because an individual in whom was deceitful his entire life had succeeded in convincing her that a life with him was going to be a life of no compare. You must understand that in life there are many areas of opportunity and obstacles that we all face each and every single day. There are no excuses. There are no redos. We only get one shot in this particular vessel that we have, utilizing this soul that we possess. There is no time like the present in order for you to enhance and in order for you to encourage yourself to configure and identify the solutions that will fix your mind, your heart, your soul. My mother was a saint. There was absolutely nothing that I would not have done to ensure that she would have been able to live a little bit longer. So sadly, you have a man in whom smokes in front of you for 40 years and does a lot of other significant things in order to exacerbate the mental health, physical health, and emotional health condition. And at a point to where North American authorities will not arrest somebody for giving someone cancer. Though it is quite clear that had she had the opportunity earlier, she would have left the situation. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, you must take care of yourselves and you must love your family. You must cherish every moment and every second that you have an opportunity to look them in the eyes and tell them how grateful that you are for their presence. Nothing will compare to the embrace of a parent or a loved one. And you must understand that when you have an opportunity to say hello to someone in whom gave birth to you, regardless of the circumstance, sometimes it just makes the world a little bit better. Given the nature and dynamics of life, we all understand that there are no complete understandings. No one has all the answers. But dear listeners, if you value this program and the things that I have said to a degree, and a lot of you have reached out with very kind words, please call your loved ones today. That's all we ask of you. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast is brought to you by Nachtenlieben CRDVC, Cleric of Chaos, and where you can find all podcasts on all platforms. If you would like to support the program, you may do so through a one-time payment or through a link in the episode's description, through merch, media, cameo, and much, much more. Dear listeners, do you have anyone in your life in whom is experiencing psychiatric duress, gambling withdrawal, or substance abuse, or any emergency calamity? Please feel free to visit the toll-free numbers listed in the episodes and podcasts description as well. Follow us at youtube.com/@clericofchaos, youtube.com/weallcheatdeath. Follow all of us on all of our socials. That is Cleric of Chaos, and the of has a 0 in it because we are both numerical as we are alphabetical. If you are looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center. They are in dire need of your support. And while you are doing so, please remember to visit yummypets.com/voice. Sign up for a free account. Click the button every day to give a new cat or dog shelter an opportunity to receive 330 pounds of kibble at the end of the month. Dear listeners, we understand that your life is never going to be a one-track solution, and there's never going to be an easy answer to every situation. But all we implore you to do is remain strong, focus on yourself, and do everything that you can to rise above the calamity. And remember, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together.